The story begins with our hero, John, setting out with his small boat for fishing. But as he goes a little further, he encounters fog coming towards him, and it gets really dark ahead. He continues into the darkness and then sees a big boat ahead of him. He approaches it and tries to call out to its owner, thinking maybe someone got stranded here since there's no sound coming from it, meaning the boat is abandoned. He first secures his small boat and then climbs aboard, then onto the bigger boat. Once inside, the boat looks completely normal. The food kept there also seemed fresh, meaning it hasn't been long since someone was here. John tries to start the boat, but it doesn't work. Then he looks around with binoculars, hoping to spot the owner nearby, but there's no one in sight for miles. He also sends a message on the radio to the control room saying, "An abandoned boat is stranded here. If anyone is listening, please respond." But there's no reply. After doing all these things, he goes back to the deck. But when he arrives there, he is shocked because his small boat is missing. However, he had secured his boat, so how could it disappear? Thinking about this, his mind starts racing. On top of that, the big boat is shut, and now his boat is missing. He tries to look at the map to figure out where he might be stranded, but he can't tell because there's nothing around except water. So he goes back to the engine room and tries to fix it. Luckily, just by touching it, the engine starts. So one thing went well for him here. He tries to contact the control room again, but once more he fails. Now, after a little while, he also needs to use the restroom. He wonders if he should go down or just pee from here. He tries to pee, but suddenly he feels a strong push and almost falls off the boat. But at the right moment, he grabs onto a rope and saves himself from falling into the sea. Now this boat doesn't want him to pee on the boat's deck and make it dirty, so calmly he goes downstairs to the bathroom. But here, another problem arises. The gate of the bathroom got locked and it wasn't opening. Now he tries everything from top to bottom to open it. But then he finds a small knife and tries using it to open the gate, but all his efforts were in vain. Now he hears someone's voice on the radio from outside. At the same moment, he sees a ship through the window. If he doesn't go outside, the ship will leave from here and he'll be alone again. So he puts all his strength into trying to open that door, but still, nothing happens. Now he waves a cloth outside the window, hoping that the ship might notice it and stop. But the captain doesn't notice the small cloth and the ship starts to move away. John gets another idea. He tries to stop his boat with a rope. This attempt was quite good, but suddenly the rope gets stuck in the engine fan, and on the other side, the rope was tightening around John's neck, choking him. There comes a moment when John was on the verge of death, but somehow he manages to remove the rope from his neck and narrowly escapes death. Just then, the ship collides with his small boat, and he sustains quite an injury. As he looks at himself in the mirror, he realizes that he was in a very bad condition. It seemed like he made a mistake by coming on this boat. Now he puts in even more effort to open the gate, but it feels like someone is holding the door, and it wasn't budging. Now John starts feeling hungry and thirsty. He tries to drink water from the shower, but even that had run out of water. Then his eyes fall on the floor where, due to the collision with the boat, there was a hole, and water was filling up. He starts drinking that water. But now, he's troubled by all these things, and he still feels like there's someone else on the boat. John, crying, pleads with this unseen person to please let him go. I don't want anything. But still, the door doesn't open. And above, we see that the boat is moving by itself. Slowly, it's now nighttime, but John is still stuck there. Just then, a fierce storm and heavy rain hit his direction. Due to this storm, the entire boat was spinning wildly like a drum. Now, the place where John was trapped started filling with water. John couldn't figure out what to do. Now, he just sits there quietly. And when he opens his eyes, the storm has calmed down. But John had stiffened from sitting for so long. His fingers had become rigid. Water had filled up to his shoulders in the boat. He struggles to stand up, hoping that maybe this time the gate will open. This time he goes underwater and sees that the gate is already open. Someone had opened it. Now he gives a strong push and breaks through, coming out. First, he rushes to the deck and takes a deep breath of the fresh air. He couldn't understand what was actually happening on this boat. It felt like some spirit had taken control of this boat and was steering it. Now, he needs to find a way to get out of here by any means possible, so an idea strikes him. He takes out some airbags and pulls out the door from the bathroom floor. Then, with their help, he constructs a raft so that he can escape from here. Now, the raft was ready, but he needed some food for the journey. So he gathers some food supplies from the boat and ties his small boat to the bigger one so that he can take it along with him. But as soon as he sits on the raft, the bigger boat remains stationary. It seemed like the boat didn't want John to leave from here. He spends several hours sitting on the same raft, hoping that the boat would finally move. But it doesn't budge, and John realizes that he needs to get off this boat. So, he returns to the bigger boat and first starts draining the water that had filled inside. However, this takes a lot of time, so he also fixes the motor to speed up the process of draining water. Now, he tackles all the issues in the boat and also paints the damaged parts to prevent water from seeping in again. After fixing everything, he tries once again to seek help through the radio, hoping that someone might hear his voice, but no response comes back, leaving him exhausted and defeated. He then gives up and sits on the deck, feeling tired and defeated. After trying to find his location on the map, he now attempts to start the boat, but the boat won't start because it runs on its own, and he wonders what to do. Just then, he sees a ship approaching from the front. He jumps straight into the water. While paddling his small raft toward it, here's the irony. The boat, which wasn't starting until now, starts moving on its own and begins heading straight towards him. Now he speeds up with his raft, but the boat accelerates even faster, almost about to collide with him, forcing him to jump into the water. He narrowly escapes, and as the ship sails away from his sight, both John and we understand that the boat didn't want him to go far. With this thought in mind, John spends most of his time in the water. However, in this water, there are sharks, and the biggest problem is the cold water. Despite not wanting to, he has to return to the ship. Now, shivering due to the cold, he goes below and wraps himself in a blanket to sleep. When he wakes up, the boat was still moving, and he didn't know where he was headed. He tries to go up to the deck, but once again, the main gate there was locked. He was completely frustrated because since he came onto this boat, something or the other has been happening to him. Then his eyes fall on the bathroom where there was a way up. He tries to exit from there, but then the entry path gets blocked, meaning John is now completely trapped in this small space. Just then, the boat starts speeding up, and John starts falling around, getting cuts on his head and hands everywhere. But then the boat slows down, and now the gate also opens up. When he comes out, the boat had stopped near a city. John quickly runs to the shore and picks up an iron rod. He felt that someone was hiding here and steering the boat, and it was the same person who had kidnapped John. But after searching thoroughly for a long time, he doesn't find anyone there. So John comes back outside. But now, the sight he sees leaves him dumbfounded because the boat was moving on its own and was about to leave John on the shore. He understands that surely some force is steering this boat, and the boat had set out again for its new prey. John goes to the highest point of that place and looks out at the sea, attempting once again to leave from there. However, despite circling around, he ends up back in the same spot. Just then, he finds his boat there, the one he had gone into the sea with at the beginning of the movie. But now the boat is back on the shore again. How did the boat come back to the shore? Or what was in this boat? With this suspense, the story ends right here. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. See you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.